have my name sandwiched between yours on the claret jug, 90, 91, 92.
He's a master. That's what Tiger Woods said when Ian Baker-Finch retired after 30 years in the broadcast booth. But the truth is, Baker-Finch spent those years talking about other masters. 5 players he respected more than anyone else in golf. From Nicklaus to Scott, each name tells a story about the kind of greatness that doesn't just win trophies, it earns respect. In golf, respect doesn't come easy. It's not handed out like participation ribbons or sponsor invitations. It's something you build over decades through the way you play, the way you teach, and the way you treat people when the cameras are off. Ian Baker-Finch knew this better than most. He won the Open Championship in 1991, became one of the most beloved voices in golf broadcasting, and spent 41 years showing up to tournaments like the Masters and the Heritage. But when he finally stepped away in August 2025, what people remembered most wasn't just his career. It was the 5 players who shaped his entire philosophy of what it means to be great. If you love hearing about legends who shaped golf with heart and humility, give this video some hype. It really helps the channel keep celebrating moments like this. Baker-Finch's story starts in a place most champions never see. A small town called Peachester in rural Queensland, Australia. There were no elite coaching centers, no fancy country clubs. That course was called Beerwah and District Memorial Golf Club, and it's where a 12-year-old kid with 5 clubs and a dream started learning the game. But here's the thing. He didn't have a teacher. He had a book. That book was called Golf My Way, written by Jack Nicklaus in 1974, and it became Baker-Finch's entire blueprint for excellence. Nicklaus was the first player Baker-Finch ever truly respected, not because they played together or even met early on, but because Nicklaus democratized greatness. He wrote down his method, broke it into pieces, and made it available to anyone willing to study. For a bush kid in Queensland with no professional coach, that was everything. Baker-Finch memorized every page. He studied the pictures of Nicklaus's high fade, the way he set up his stance, the way he visualized shots before hitting them. He practiced with a 2-wood, a 3-iron, a 5-iron, a 7-iron, and a putter. That was his entire arsenal. And somehow, using nothing but Nicklaus's instructions and his own obsessive work ethic, he built a world-class game. By 1983, he won his first professional title at the New Zealand Open, and the foundation for that victory was laid on a dirt practice range in rural Australia with a worn copy of Golf My Way in his back pocket. But respect isn't just technical, it's also personal. Nicklaus didn't just teach Baker-Finch how to hit a golf ball, he taught him how to carry himself. Nicklaus was known for his calm under pressure, his class in victory and defeat, and his dignity in every situation. Baker-Finch saw that and wanted to be that. He wanted to be the kind of player who could win 17 titles across 4 continents and still be remembered as a good person. That's what Nicklaus represented, a standard of excellence that went beyond scoreboards. And when Baker-Finch retired from broadcasting in 2025, Nicklaus himself returned the respect. He called Baker-Finch a good player with a wonderful personality and a great addition to the CBS golf family. After decades of silent mentorship through a book, the respect had come full circle. There was another name that meant even more to Baker-Finch. Someone who didn't just inspire him from a distance, but personally guided him through the most important transformation of his career. That man was Peter Thomson, 5-time Open champion, and the closest thing Baker-Finch ever had to a father figure in golf. Thomson noticed Baker-Finch in the early 1980s and saw something special, raw talent mixed with a work ethic that couldn't be taught. He took the young Queenslander under his wing, and what happened next changed everything. At the end of 1982, Baker-Finch was struggling. He was trying to copy Nicklaus's high fade, but he didn't have Nicklaus's power. The ball flight was weak and pathetic, and he knew something had to change. That's when Thomson stepped in during a practice session in New Zealand. His advice was simple but revolutionary. Stand squarer, lower your arms, swing around your body. What Thomson was teaching him was how to hit a low draw instead of a high fade. That one adjustment allowed Baker-Finch to flight the ball lower, control it better in the wind, and compete on the links courses where the Open Championship is played. But Thomson didn't just fix his swing, he fixed his mind. Thomson taught Baker-Finch to think deeply about every shot, to visualize the result before swinging, and to focus on outcomes instead of mechanics. He once told a young pro to just shoot lower scores, which sounds like a joke but was actually profound. It meant stop overthinking and start performing. During one practice round, Thomson watched Baker-Finch play a hole and then casually said, "Make 2 fours to win." That wasn't just advice about par, it was advice about pressure, about seeing yourself succeed before it happens. The final round at Birkdale in 1991 was the moment everything clicked. Baker-Finch played the front 9 in 29 strokes, one of the greatest 9-hole stretches in Open history. He hit low draws into the wind, managed the course like a strategist, and closed with a 66 to win by 2 shots. That victory was Thomson's victory too. Every shot Baker-Finch hit that day was shaped by the swing change Thompson made in 1982 and the mental training that followed. When Thompson passed away in 2018, Baker-Finch was one of the first to honor his memory, crediting him with paving the way for Australian golfers like Greg Norman, Adam Scott, and Jason Day. The respect between them wasn't just about one swing tip, it was about a lifetime of gratitude. Then there's Tiger Woods, the player who redefined what greatness looked like in golf. Baker-Finch and Woods didn't overlap much as competitors. By the time Tiger was dominating the tour, Baker-Finch's playing career was ending in heartbreak. But as a broadcaster, Baker-Finch had a front row seat to Tiger's reign, and what he saw left him in awe. He once joked that Tiger's driving distance was longer than most people's vacations, but the humor didn't hide the admiration. Baker-Finch respected Tiger not just for his skill, but for his mental strength, his ability to perform under pressure, and his refusal to settle for anything less than perfection. What made this respect even more meaningful was that Tiger returned it. In August 2025, when Baker-Finch announced his retirement after 30 years in broadcasting, Tiger did something rare. He made a public statement. Tiger doesn't usually comment on media figures, but he called Baker-Finch Finchy, thanked him for 30 incredible years, and said that Baker-Finch brought insight into things the viewing audience could understand and relate to. That tribute meant everything. Tiger acknowledged that Baker-Finch's major pedigree as the 1991 Open champion gave his commentary a weight that other analysts couldn't match. He wasn't just talking about golf. He was translating excellence for millions of fans because he had lived it himself. The respect between them went both ways. Baker-Finch always praised Tiger's professionalism, his decency, and his commitment to the game. He saw Tiger as the benchmark of greatness, someone who raised the standard for everyone else. And when Tiger took the time to thank him publicly, it was clear that Baker-Finch had become more than just an announcer. He was a staple of the tour, a voice that mattered, and a figure whose decency and expertise were as essential to the sport as the players themselves. But no relationship captures Baker-Finch's respect for excellence quite like his bond with Adam Scott. For Baker-Finch, Scott represented the fulfillment of a national dream, an Australian winning the Masters. As the voice of Amen Corner for CBS, Baker-Finch had the privilege and the pressure of calling Scott's historic 2013 victory. And when Scott made the winning putt, Baker-Finch delivered one of the most iconic lines in golf broadcasting history, from down under to the top of the world. Those words weren't just commentary. They were a distillation of decades of Australian golf history, from Peter Thomson's 5 Open titles to Greg Norman's heartbreaks to Scott's ultimate redemption. Baker-Finch's respect for Scott was rooted in resilience. Scott had suffered one of the most devastating losses in golf history at the 2012 Open Championship at Royal Lytham. He held a 4-shot lead with 4 holes to play and finished with 4 straight bogeys to lose. Baker-Finch understood that pain. He had led the 1984 Open through 54 holes, only to collapse with a 79 in the final round. So when Scott came back a year later and won the Masters, Baker-Finch wasn't just impressed, he was moved. Scott stood up, made the putts, and hit the shots when it mattered most. One of the most telling moments of Scott's victory came on the 10th green during the playoff against Angel Cabrera. Scott read the putt as 1 cup outside the hole, but his caddy Steve Williams said it was absolutely 2 cups. Scott trusted Williams, adjusted his aim, and made the putt to win. Baker-Finch later highlighted that moment as the mark of a true champion, the ability to respect your team and trust their advice in the most intense moment of your life. It reminded him of his own partnership with caddy Pete Bender during his 1991 Open win. Scott's respect for Baker-Finch was just as deep. When Baker-Finch retired in 2025, Scott called it a special touch to have a fellow Australian major winner call his Masters victory. He described Baker-Finch as a friend who stood for excellence and whose love for the game was clearly expressed every weekend on television. That mutual respect between the 1991 Open champion and the 2013 Masters champion created a narrative bridge across generations of Australian golfers. The 5th player in Baker-Finch's circle of respect is Tom Kite, a name that might surprise some people but reveals something essential about what Baker-Finch values most. Baker-Finch once said something unforgettable about Kite. "I wish my name was Tom Kite." That wasn't self-deprecation, it was admiration. Kite represented everything Baker-Finch believed a professional golfer should be. He was methodical, disciplined, consistent, and utterly professional. Kite didn't rely on flash or natural talent. He worked harder than everyone else, studied the game like a scientist, and built a career on steady excellence. For Baker-Finch, Kite was the embodiment of respect earned through craft. Kite wasn't the longest hitter or the most naturally gifted player, but he was the perfect professional. He showed up every week, prepared meticulously, and competed with quiet intensity. That approach resonated deeply with Baker-Finch. He came from rural Australia with no advantages and had to build his game through study and hard work. Kite's professionalism was a model for how to stay grounded through the highs and lows of a career. So, what do these five players have in common? Jack Nicklaus gave Baker-Finch the mind, the technical foundation, and the standard of dignity. Peter Thomson gave him the mentor, the swing change, and the psychological tools to win under pressure. Tiger Woods gave him the benchmark of modern greatness, the reminder that excellence never stops evolving. Adam Scott gave him the air, the next generation of Australian golf fulfilling the dream. And Tom Kite gave him the craftsman, the model of discipline and professionalism that defines a career. Together, these five players represent five dimensions of respect, five ways that greatness can be measured beyond trophies and prize money. Baker-Finch's own career is proof that respect isn't just about winning. After his 1991 Open victory, his game fell apart. Within 3 years, he could barely make a cut. At the 1995 Open at St. Andrews, he hit his opening tee shot out of bounds across both the 1st and 18th fairways. At the 1997 Open at Royal Troon, shot 92 in the first round and retired from competitive golf in tears. Peter Thomson later said that Baker-Finch's downfall came from chasing extreme length, taking advice from too many coaches, and losing the elegant balance that made him great. But here's what makes Baker-Finch's story so powerful. He didn't hide from that pain, he used it. He turned his failure into a second career in broadcasting, where his empathy and authenticity made him one of the most beloved voices in golf. He knew what it felt like to stand over a shot and have no idea where it was going, and that knowledge made him a better analyst, someone who could explain not just the mechanics of a swing, but the emotional state of a player under pressure. When Baker-Finch signed off for the final time at the Wyndham Championship in August 2025, calling Cameron Young's emotional victory, he was fighting back tears. He thanked the fans he was there to entertain, the players who trusted him, and the CBS family who became his second home. The tributes poured in from across the golf world. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Adam Scott, Jason Day, and PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan all publicly thanked him for his contributions. Jason Day's tribute was especially telling. He called Baker-Finch a champion both on and off the course and emphasized decency as his most important trait. Baker-Finch's legacy isn't just about the five players he respected, it's about the respect he earned from everyone who knew him. His colleague Dottie Pepper called him a major human being. Jay Monahan called him a cherished voice with a deep love for the game. And Baker-Finch himself said that after 41 years of attending events like the Masters and the Heritage, it was time for new adventures and to prioritize his family. In the end, Ian Baker-Finch didn't just play golf, he played with heart. He learned from Nicklaus's book on a dirt range in Queensland. He transformed his swing under Thomson's guidance. He watched Tiger redefine greatness from the broadcast booth. He called Adam Scott's Masters victory with tears in his eyes, and he admired Tom Kite's quiet professionalism as the ultimate standard. Each of those five players taught him something different about respect, and each of them shaped the way he lived his life. Respect in golf isn't about who hits it the farthest or who wins the most. It's about who you learn from, who you lift up, and who remembers you when you're gone. Baker-Finch earned respect by being authentic, by surviving failure, by treating people with kindness, and by never losing his love for the game. That's what makes him a legend.